For the Christians, there is one difference. The Christians, they lost possession of the original Torah and Injil somewhere down the line in history. So they have been left with nothing to compare their Bible against. So for a Christian, the only way to discover the stuff that has been fabricated and added to the Bible is either by checking it against the Quran, if they believe in the Quran, which most don't. So then the only other way is by carrying out deep research into the history of the Bible and how its text evolved over time. Looking at the early manuscripts of the Bible is the only way a Christian today has of finding out the stuff that God added into the text of the Bible as the centuries moved and progressed. Now, many smart and critical-minded Christian scholars have discovered many of the fabrications and lies which were added into the Bible through their independent researches into the older manuscripts of the Bible, which have revealed glaring discrepancies and interpolations. So even without referring to the Quran, they have arrived at conclusions very similar to what the Quran tells us in this regard. Now, we, on the other hand, we have the Quran as our criterion, and thus it is easier for us to catch the fabrications, because anything that clearly and explicitly contradicts the Quran has to be a fabrication. Anything that does not have clear support for it in the Quran is also very likely a fabrication. So the point that I want to make is that when it comes to iftira, that is a false claim about God, you should not be fooled by narrations or reports or even statements attributed to God himself, which people bring from unreliable books, whether it be the Bible or whether it be some hadith collection from the Shia library of hadith or the Sunni library of hadith or the Sufi library of hadith, because that does not constitute acceptable evidence in the court of God. For us, at least, the only thing that constitutes valid sultan and authority in the court of God is the Quran and anything that agrees with it. So all those ahadith that agree explicitly with the text of the Quran and that can be shown to be in perfect harmony and unanimity with the Quran, those ahadith are hujjah. But those ahadith which do not agree with the Quran or do not have support for them in the Quran, those have no hujjiyah. And this is a fact that has been explained by top scholars and maraja. For example, Ayatollah Sayyid Muhammad Sa'id al-Tabatabai al-Hakim, in his advanced level lectures on Usul al-Fiqh, he has a whole section where he talks about this. He says nothing, because our hadith literature has been so badly compromised, no hadith can be relied on until illa bil-i'tidad, unless you can find bil-qara'in al-qat'iyya, unless you can find qat'i support for it from the Quran itself, or from some other hadith that has been verified by the Quran and that has been authenticated by the Quran. This same thing has been reiterated by numerous maraji' and mujtahideen. Ayatollah Sayyid Shaheed Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr, in his lectures, he used to say, as his students narrate, that Al-Kafi, for example, which is one of the most famous Shia collections of hadith, he says you put your finger, you open the book Al-Kafi, you put your finger on any hadith randomly. He says the first possibility is that the hadith you put your finger on is a likely fabrication. Yani the likelihood of fabrication and the number of fabrications in Al-Kafi is so high that if you randomly open Al-Kafi and just put your finger, have to contend with is that the narration you're looking at is most likely a fabrication. This is how severely our books of hadith have been compromised, unfortunately.